spine erect, eyes gently closed. Shift your attention to the center of the eyebrows, the Jyotishmati, the light of awareness within. Take a deep breath and exhale. Let's begin today's session with the opening chant. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let's offer our salutations to Sage Patanjali. Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacha Malam Shariram Cha Vaidyakena Vyopakarotam Pravaram Muninam Patanjalim Pranjaliranatosmin. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining our weekly study series, the knowledge study series. It's a wonderful satsang. And today, in servicing and honoring and making the right sankalp and wish for some of our friends whose family is in troubled times, particularly fighting COVID, and also with our extended family, with the people in India and worldwide who are fighting this COVID virus. So we thought we were going to start with the singing Mrutyunjaya mantra for about 11 times. And Preeti ji is going to lead that, and then we'll get into our knowledge series. Preeti ji, you want to take over?
Good evening. I'd just like to chant Mrutyunjaya mantra 11 times. Srini ji, can I share the screen actually?
Of course.
Okay. Are you able to see the screen? No, right? Sorry.
No, you were doing it, and then suddenly, yeah, now it's actually started screen.
You're able to see the screen now?
Yeah, but it's blank though.
Yeah.
You probably need to do a desktop share. Why don't you do a desktop share?
It is on the desktop after my screen share for video clip. Desktop. Okay. It's okay. Okay, doesn't matter. I just thought I will have the screen for Mrutyunjaya mantra. It's okay, I can chant.
Yeah.
Mrutyunjaya
बन्धनात् मृत्योर्मोक्षीयमामृतात् त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनात् मृत्योर्मोक्षीयमामृतात् ॐ 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 शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु. Thank you. Sorry about the battery.
Thank you, Preeti.
Thank you, Preeti. Namaste. And that was so wonderful. That was very divineful. So welcome everybody. And again, there's lots of people who are in the suffering. I think from the suffering, I think we always need to anchor in the positive mindset and the deep faith, and then knowing that we're always in the omnipresent and omniscient presence of that divinity all the time. No matter what the realms of existence that we are in, we are always part of the divinity. So what I wanted to do today is wanted to share one of the talk that I given in one of the yoga teacher trainings that we did at Ekashri Schools of Yoga, and that is something is a continuation of some of the talks that Kanika ji led last week. It's about who we are, and the mindset that we need to build, and that's also a continuation of some of the constructs that Ramakanji that we are sharing. So today I want to share some of those principles, and then we will have Ramakanji continue some of his knowledge, wisdom, in the Saturday stuff. Can you all see my screen? Cool. So the topic of this session is define you. Define you is who we are, and at the end of the day, as Patanjali Yoga Sutras and then as Advaita says, we are nothing but the you is Tattvamasi. We are nothing but that infinite, the Brahman, that is who we are. But in that realm of when we have this costume of the body and the mind, our identity kind of stuck to what we do and in our realm of physicality and our attachments. But having said that, we're constantly making that journey from that existence of the physicality to who we are. And then we are doing that brahmacharya to brahmacharya. So we are actually connecting back to the source, that tattvamasi, that is you. So some of the things that I'm going to talk about is not deeply philosophical, but rather some of the things that we could actually use in our day-to-day lives, on the path or on the path of the journey of discovering and realizing and connecting to the source, that who we are. So a couple of things is some of the leadership principles of what, and how do we build a brand for ourselves, and then what are some of the constructs that we could actually do to actually help build a personal brand of who we are. Number one, if you actually look at it, all of us are very, very unique. All of us are very unique. And we all have certain unique divine qualities. And the more we are making the progress in this path of the journey, we are embellishing more and more of those divine qualities in our thoughts and our action, manasa, vacha, karmana, right? But why do we need to put that in a personal branding, whether it's consciously or subconsciously? Eventually, first we'll actually start working on consciously, and then it just becomes your very nature. The purpose of a branding is to first realize, to kind of know who we are, why we are here, what is our purpose, why we exist, why we are manifesting in this the human the existence of the human form. And then when we are in a brand identity, what happens is it allows us to emotionally connect in a state of surrender, in a state of faith, to the people that we serve. Because at the end of the day, we are here to serve the people around us. In that notion of the servitude, how do we make an emotional connection so that they simply want to be associated with that, to make those irreplaceable and lifelong relationships? And this is a state of surrender. If you don't have this state of surrender on the lifelong relationship or the deeper emotional connection, what happens is every time we are trying to connect with somebody or participate in some kind of a value exchange, there is some element of chatter. Like, for example, if I'm offering some yoga classes, and before somebody attends some yoga class, there is some element of chatter that goes in everybody's mind. Is this really worth? Is this really worth? Is this the best use of my time across all the other things that you're doing? Like, for example, and then let's say I do some kind of a workshop, and then people are like, always the mind goes into is like, do I really need to do it? What do I really need to get it? And so on and so forth. But once over the period of time, if I am successful in establishing an emotional brand, a trusted brand about authenticity, about who I am, then next time when you actually are trying to come to the yoga class, the chatter goes away. You simply come to the class. I mean, I'm just giving that as an example. Similarly, Ramakantji has worked so long in cultivating the brand about himself, so that when Ramakantji now offers any particular class at the Hanuman temple or otherwise, there are a lot of people simply surrender to it. They simply attend. In fact, they don't even know what topic it is. It's about making that deeper emotional connection followed by the trust. And that actually allows you to make a irreplaceable and lifelong relationship, so that we don't make an ethos or a logos based the association, but rather you simply surrender. Okay? Does that make sense? Does anybody have a comment about this? And anybody want to see your experiences on how you are attached to some brands in your walks of life?
Sorry, that's Savita. We should still question before we completely surrender, right? Like we still can't, because the brand keeps shape shifting to some degree, in the sense, because they are also, the brand also evolving at the same time. So
yeah, true. I think, but if it's an evaluation, like, let's take an example of Apple, right? Apple has established a brand image, like, for example, some of the core values of like surprise and delight, or the best design experiences, or something like that, right? Now, when Apple announces a new product, very few people, I mean, some of the people that really fall in love with, Apple products, they don't question. When there is a new Apple Watch, there are a lot of people simply go buy a watch, right? And it takes a long time for Apple to mess it up, unless they actually shift into a different direction, or if they adopt a new vision statement, mission statement, and core values, then they would have to regain that emotional connection, the state of surrender, to take the people along and that new brand identity. But for the brand identity that they represent right now, like in terms of creating a surprise and delightful experiences, they far succeeded in it, and then they literally, people simply follow that. They don't really question. So, but it's a process to get there. The brand identity takes a long time to establish it. But once you have that, it takes a lot for you to actually take that away, unless you consciously try to do that. Anybody have any other thoughts? Okay.
But the
The next
questioning
one is,
should be there.
yeah,
The questioning part should still be there. Even if there is a loyalty, people will say, okay, what is this new thing they have input in this new Apple, say they have released a new one, but they will still see that, oh, what is their offering, right? The offering should still align with the thing that they want.
I think
So I think
the
the questioning part will be there, even if you set up, even if you like, I mean, even if there is a brand established, I think there will be a questioning part every time there is act before the action. Yes, resistance won't be there, but the questioning will still be there.
Actually, in the spiritual world, we always actually say that, which is, in fact, Sri Ravi Shankar says this very beautifully. I think, as much as possible, we need to take questions out of our mind. We actually, if you can, substitute the question marks with exclamatory marks, right? Which is more of a sense of wonder, a sense of seeking. A question is like, perhaps, it kind of connotates as thing of not believing. I don't know where is it, but he actually says it, question mark has a bend and it looks crooked or something. But exclamatory mark, if you can substitute that with an exclamatory mark, you have a sense of wonder, a sense of seeking, and is wanting to know the unknown. But rather more of a, I don't know if it's the right choice of the word, from a doubt to knowing. From a sense of doubt to a sense of seeking or knowing, right? The thing
amazement.
is,
amazement. Basically, what he says is the bent in the question mark turns from, see, questions are, so I'll fill in both sides. Actually, I think whatever was that, Saritaji? That is totally right. Your perspective is perfectly right, because, yeah, it should be questioned. And
no,
thoroughly questioned always.
Question comes out of exclamation only. The sense is like
Exactly.
in the sense that
exactly.
like child ask a question 100 times, will ask the same question in a twisted form, in a different ways, just to understand something, or not for questioning the belief. It's just do I understand this correctly? Do I understand
exactly
this?
what is it's a sense of curiosity. Like, for example, when Apple Watch comes in, it's like, what is this experience look like? There's a sense of wonder, sense of wanting to know more about it, right? The thing is, I mean, that's what we say, right, in Bhagavad Gita or some of this stuff. The highest form of knowledge, when after the knowledge comes in, the knowledge kind of reaches a pinnacle of expression in a state of surrender and the devotion. And that's when the separation goes away. You simply surrender to your Ishta Devata, whether it's a Krishna or love, and that's when you are in a totality, because there is no sense of separation. You simply surrender, right? But of course, in the materialistic world, like the Apple brand is not that kind of a thing, right? But eventually, I think, Savitaji, you actually said it today. When I'm having to spend, like, for example, if I have to buy an Apple product, it's a path of resistance. You have to shell out a lot of money and, this stuff. Then you kind of go through the chatter of, is it worth it, and so on and so forth. But once it actually establishes a brand experience, that emotional connection of what it is, Like, for example, surprise and delight is one of the core values of the Apple. But the people who have actually made that emotional connection, then and then it basically is like, okay, now it is what is the next Apple experience that you really would want. And when it actually comes down to the next thing is, a personal brand is something, when we look at ourselves, it's actually, we always have to think from the other people point of view, which is like, what is the total experience of someone having a relationship with you? What is their experience? What is the experience that you want to create for them? Because ultimately here we are about serving others, right? It's not about I. We are reducing that Asmita Bhava. We are here to serve the people around us. And then, which is like a personal brand represents, what is the experience that you want to create for the people around you in a relationship? And then how do you want to represent yourself as an individual and also as a leader? And again, totally with the servitude as a foundation, right? So you literally would have to think from the experience that you would want to cultivate and nurture and other people to the pursue, because we're all about in samadhi, ultimate thing of the yoga is to immerse yourself in the people that we serve around us, right? And then ultimately the brand actually people would want to reach that pinnacle of expression, which is like state of love of identity and trust us and believe in our purpose, right? Believe in our purpose. So this is literally, of course, this identity, we can actually put it in a community that we represent. It can actually, the purpose of a brand, it can exist to the organization that we work for. And then it also, but at the individual level, I think we all need to question ourselves, which is like, why are we here? Who am I? What's our purpose? And then how do we want to represent ourselves to the people around us, the people that we serve? And what is that emotional connection? And how do we want to create? What is the kind of experience that we need to create in some of others? I truly believe that this is the purpose that we all have to live. And that actually puts us into a reflection to go deeper into what is the brand that we want to represent for our individual identity, whether it's Srini, Savitaji, Ramakantji, or Dr. Sunilji, or Preetiji, or all of us, right? I think that's the purpose of the branding. Any thoughts, comments? Ramakantji, anything, or Sunilji, anything that you would want to add?
Yes, very
No, Ji.
quick thing, right? Quick thing is true. I mean, here is the thing. I think whether you do something, for me personally, right? I mean, I do not have any. You will be branded. That's the whole story I can understand out of it, in the sense, right? So for me, I have no agenda of having zero branding purpose, because the whole purpose here is to let loose of the brand that we are. Right? I mean, this whole yoga journey is all about letting go of whoever I am and any branding that I'm assumed. Right? But in spite of it, you will be branded, yes, right? So that's my perspective. And for example, right now we are doing this the same way Adi Shankara, right? Adi Shankaracharya, he did the bhashya, and he is still a brand, and he is always wanting to just be in the center, most center as possible. I mean, we are away from the center and still, we are still in the waves, but still we are doing our best to be at the zero and still deliver. So all I'm trying to say is, I think Sriniji's perspective is both ways, in the sense it could be taken as, I mean, we could take up saying, hey, this is the best version of myself, and that should be coming out, is one way. But the other way is, for me, right, actually, whenever I do these yoga classes, I get out of, in a sense, automatically I would be jumping into like moving from one room to the other, basically. Like I directly walk into my zero-ness whenever I'm doing this sessions. But anyway, with that,
I think you captured it beautifully, because I think you will be branded because it's always the experience that others are perceiving. And that experience on a consistent basis creates a certain amount of brand. But Buddha did not want to create a brand for himself, but he became a biggest brand. So Adi Shankara became a biggest brand because it's the consistency of the actions and the authenticity of the purpose and the selfless service or the selfless action. I think all those things, and of course, that's a good brand, right? And of course, you could also have a negative brand. If you're consistently being a capitalist, where you're trying to maximize the things for yourself, of course, that's also a brand that you kind of do it. My thing here is the brand is kind of a systemic construct that actually allows you to reach your vision and mission in the most efficient way. That's the creation of a brand. As an example, in Art of Living, we create a brand of Sri Ravi Shankar, or in the Isha we create a brand around Sadhguru, or in the Ganapati Sachidananda and the Karya Sadhyanmal, Ganapati Sachidananda Swami is a brand. Or we try to create a brand around Ram, we try to create Rama, Krishna. So what happens is those brands, or even the Apple, these brands, what happens is they actually allow you to scale effectively in reaching your purpose, in reaching your vision and the mission statement. If you don't have a brand or some kind of an organization construct, then what happens is you probably would have to make that connection in a one-on-one scale with everybody. Every time you're going after the ethos and logos, try to win over an argument and try to win over an argument and so on and so forth. Eventually, when you actually get into a brand actually allows you to reach your vision and the purpose, much more efficiently. And as Ramakant Jay is like, whether you have it or not, it's actually something that the brand that people are actually creating for yourself is based on the experiences that you're creating on a consistent and on an authentic basis. Right? I think it'd be good for us to know from where this. So moving on, in any brand.
I have a question. When a brand is either somebody else gives us or I give myself, define myself, that should be the byproduct of what my goal is. So if I create a brand and I am so attached to my brand and keeping to the thing, sometimes we may act because we put ourselves in a box, and we have told that everybody else also has put us in a box. Then sometimes it's hard to show kindness because we're in the box, or we don't go beyond, or push envelopes or push buttons and go push beyond our comfort zone. That's what I was trying to say. So I agree with Ramakantji. I don't want labeling. I don't want, that is also, I don't want to be identified as a mother, woman, whatever it is, but still I feel the branding is the end byproduct. If they give it, that's fine. Otherwise, I feel, I don't know, I'm not connecting with this one.
Yeah. Actually, I think that's a good thing. I think, brand actually starts with a purpose, right? Deep inside, forget about your labels. We all have a bigger purpose. I mean, in the other constructs, we call ourselves as vision or mission statement. We all see a unique purpose, why we are here. And then brand becomes a construct, as you said, is a byproduct that help realize that purpose much more efficiently. So in fact, in any brand, there are actually 5 constructs that we actually try to work on it. The first two are actually the first 3 are actually the most important one, right? One is vision, and the second one is mission statement. If y'all, I don't know, do any of us create a vision or mission statement for our purpose?
I create for the year. on January 1st.
I see. But at least that's a good thing. It's a time bound. That's a mission statement. But there is a bigger arc, right? When you actually take a step back at this point of our existence in the life journey, if we were to ask the question, why am I here? Right? I mean, of course, as we go through this samsara, we always have a vision or the mission statement that is kind of, it kind of goes through limited boundaries, right? And number one, it's about, for example, it's about my family, my kids, and my, possessions and so on. Or as we start moving into this journey to connect to the oneness in the spiritual path, you start obliterating these narrow boundaries and you start expanding your identity a little bit bigger. And that's where you get to Aham Brahmasmi or the Tattvamasi, right? But it's a process. But in that process, you start connecting with a bigger purpose for why you are, right? Like as an example, but it's a journey at different spheres of our existence or in the life journey. Like about, 15, 20 years ago, my vision or mission statement was like, and I want to build, one of the, greatest startup in whatever, right? To now, I have a different vision or mission statement. Like, for example, right now, as I'm kind of embellishing this and stuff, I want to commit myself, to promote social entrepreneurship, creating societal well-being outcomes based on yoga and Sanatana Dharma principles, very particularly like Samyama, Yama, and Niyama principles. So, but that's kind of a crude way of saying it, but there is a concept that I'm trying to assign myself to a vision or mission statement. So similarly, and it is based on my life experiences, where am I in journey? And this is kind of, it's kind of my current vision or mission statement. Why am I here? And then once I have a purpose of a vision and mission statement, vision is kind of forward looking in the direction that you're headed. Mission statement puts kind of a more concretized it, it's more of a time bomb. Like, for example, John F. Kennedy said, we want to go to the moon. And then he kind of, concretized with, it's like, we want to go to the moon in the next decade. Right? Similarly, I truly believe that we always have to, no matter where you are in your life journey, we always have to create a vision and mission statement for ourselves. Right? Otherwise, what happens is we are living the life in a reactive mode. Like, things are happening to us, right? We are reacting to our responsibilities. Okay, I need to do this job and I need to take care of these things. But if you were to take a step back, why am I here? Right? And there is nothing that's wrong, actually, but it'll always have to have a strategic view about, your purpose for life or purpose for your existence, right? That's the vision and the mission statement. And then the third one is the core values. Now you define the vision and your mission statement, and then define 3 to 5 as the core values on how you're going to prosecute this vision and the mission statement. Like, as an example, like, let's say if I make a vision statement of, I want to spread the message of Sanatana Dharma, the holistic yoga, to something like, let's say hundreds of thousands of people, in the next 5 years. Let's say if I make that as my mission statement. And then without the core values, I can actually do that any which way. Like, for example, I can give everybody bribe and then, give everybody $100 and then sit through some course and then I can check my boxes. Or I can just, do some kind of a yoga and then, or I could just, focus more on a physical asana practice or whatever. The core values are the guiding principles, the values that you actually sign up for in realizing your vision and mission statement. Like, for example, we are trying to go through more of a holistic yoga essence, right? Which includes a combination of Ashtanga yoga, which is rooted in Yoga Sutra knowledge, the whole 8 limbs of practice. We are not really trying to center on, just the physical practice or the pranayama or other thing, but rather we are trying to at least, learn and study the holistic yoga practice. And that's what we are trying to, do that. So anyway, when we actually try to come up with a vision and mission statement that I think, all of us need to have at every point in time in our journey, we need to have a torchlight for our existence of where we are headed, what's our vision, what's our mission statement. And then the third one is, what are the core values? And it may change. It may change in the different stages of life or based on your, life situations. But we're always taking a strategic view of taking control of our life, but rather just being reactive. Any thoughts anybody would want to add to it?
So Sriniji, this is Sunil. So most of the times what happens is learning our tradition, obviously, learning Advaita and all this becomes an intellectual exercise for most of the people. Only when, this is what I felt, people listen, but they don't experience it. It doesn't become an experiential reality. It becomes an intellectual exercise. But whenever a person is in that position, like Arjuna-like position, Nachiketa-like position, they have a burning desire, asking the question, what is this all about? That burning desire is there, then they will actually start experiencing the knowledge. Up to that point, it becomes an intellectual exercise. Obviously, we can listen to lots of YouTube videos, and we can sense that this person has intellectually very good, but they don't have that experiential knowledge. It's just we can see it on the face, but people who have experienced it, the knowledge became an experiential knowledge, then it gives a different vibe, and that's what I sense sometimes. So that Nachiketa fire, that Arjuna moment has to come, and it doesn't come voluntarily. It comes subconsciously or involuntarily, and when it comes, nobody can stop it. They will go and start exploring it. They will look for it, and maybe the guru shows up at that time. It may be online guru or offline guru. It shows up, and so for most of us, probably we had that burning question, and then we started looking into answers. And personally, in my case, you can call me atheist or whatever for until like maybe 5 years ago, and when I would be a staunch atheist, I would put it that way. So science, blah blah blah, all those arrogant talk and all those things. And when I had that Arjuna moment, entire foundation shakes. And so I started exploring science, neuroscience. Okay, I have answers in neuroscience. I was so arrogant, so exploring neuroscience. Then hit a wall. Oh my God, this is nothing. This is stupid. So then I started reading quantum physics. I said, maybe this is the answer. I said, these people are all hitting a wall and starting to explore Vivekananda. So then I started reading Bhagavad Gita. I said, my God, this is what I was listening in my childhood. I thought this is a stupid book. And this is where the answers are. So, obviously, then I started listening more and more YouTube videos. And I said, oh, wow, this makes more sense to me than anything else. This is a perfect answer to what I'm looking for as a question. Because everything, I even got, I thought maybe this, everybody neglects what is in their house. So I ordered a book on, maybe the Quran has answer, maybe Bible has answer. So I ordered it on Amazon, and my wife said, why are you ordering these books? So I said, maybe I want to look for the answer. Maybe they have it. And I said, okay, this makes a story, but it doesn't have my answer. So Puranas, no answer. So Bhagavad Gita, and then I went into, again, it's summary of Upanishads, perfect answer. Of course, it has to experience, but otherwise it becomes intellectual gymnastic. But that Nachiketa moment or Arjuna moment has to come. Until then, we cannot convince them. That's what I felt in one. I was listening to one YouTube video. That person says, Krishna could have told all these things to Arjuna at other time. I don't think he would have gotten it. His foundation was shaken, and he says, my Gandiva is falling, and entire body is trembling. My hairs are going up, and there is no energy left in my. So that 10 seconds, if that person is experiencing that 10 seconds, the knowledge that Krishna gave will go in. Otherwise, it's intellectual exercise.
I mean, so beautifully said. In fact, that Vishada Yoga setting, right? The pivot happens where what you thought as your secure foundation needs to be shaken up completely. And that moment comes in. That moment could come in. Like, for example, I had that moment in 2007, right? And that really made me to pivot into a totally different extent. Everything that I thought were my secure, pillars, and I couldn't find any security from there. Then I was looking for deeper other forms of thing. And then that Vishada yoga setting happened. And then that really gave me the opportunity to go explore other dimensions, right? And then what you said is, then it's no longer an intellectual stimulation. Then if you actually go through this 4 stages of learning or 4 stages of experience: Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, Sakshatkaram, right? The first one is, you just listen, that's where it's the intellectual gymnastics. Most people get stuck at that periphery. And then the second stage is when you're contemplating deeply in your own isolation, right? It's not more of a display with others. It's more of your swadhyaya. You're deeply contemplating on it. And then that mananam results in nididhyasana. Then it becomes your way of life, right? You kind of becomes, internalize it in your manasa vacha karmana. And then the last one is sakshatkar. Then it becomes realized, you become that becomes a samadhi, right? Samadhi experience, you become that. This 4 stages of experience, happens, and for all of us, there is a different, pivotal moments, for depending upon perhaps our purva jarma karmas. For some people, it was just for Buddha, all he had to do was, see a sick person, and then that basically, he took a step back and says, like, who am I? This secure foundation that I'm relying on, it doesn't seem like real. Then he's like, who am I? And you want to find the answer. And for Ramana Maharshi, he was trying to experience some kind of a near-death experience when he was a kid. Then he took a step back and was like, who am I? And that Arjuna or Nachiketa moment. So I think in life, those really shaken moments are our greatest opportunities to realize who we are, and then move on this journey. So the thing is, coming back to here, is vision, mission statement, and the core values are something that we all need to define for ourselves. Perhaps, could be every 3 year kind of a written statement, or every 5 years, or, if you have any real pivotal moments in your life journey, I think that's when we could actually, it's almost like a will is something after, but I think, we always have to have a living will for our path to becoming zero. What is the direction? How am I going to become zero? Something like that, right? And then the next 2 attributes are, sorry, go ahead.
So mission, vision statement is, you're saying, put a time bound, put your values in it, and then function on it. Work on it. So within the time bound, you achieve that. That's what I'm understanding.
Yeah, the vision is the purpose. Vision is kind of the overarching purpose, and the mission. But the thing is, sometimes it's just a lofty. You don't act on it. Mission statement actually puts some kind of a concrete structure to it. Which, this is what I think. I'm gonna get there within 5 years or 10 years. And then the core values is how you're gonna get there, right? What are the values that you wanna embrace in realizing that vision and mission.
I'm actually, in my life, I'm trying to come out of this, in the sense, putting time bound into it. In the sense, I want my life to be a balance sheet and like carry forward next year, because that flexibility has to be there. Otherwise, I need to get married. Like, all these girls go through so much stress. I need to get married at this age. I need to have a child at this age. I need to hit $1 million. What creates is, that's when it creates anxiety. Yes, it's nice to have a bigger vision, bigger mission, and all those things. The joy is lost. And also, you will, meantime, you're like, because you're so, you become a people pleaser. I don't know. I am actually, in my life, I'm trying to get out of it without losing the vision.
Yeah. I think the thing here's the deal. I think, it makes sense what you do. But the bigger thing here is, with the vision and the purpose is about serving others, not serving yourself, right? When we define the vision and mission statement is about, I want to achieve $1 million, right? When there is no asmita, when it becomes nirmama, then in my existence, if the purpose of this existence is to in the service of others, and I'm here to create a greater impact or create in the service of others, then when you anchor that there, then there is very less chatter, right? Of course, in those things, there will be hardships, and like, for example, Vivekananda's journey was not really rosy. But I don't think he's feeling the pain when he's going through all the hardships. He's still anchored in the joy, but he had a mission. to actually go spread the oneness, Advaita, to the Western thing. And he was like, fighting all kinds of, things to actually get there. But internally, he was always joy. But he was always going, like, he created a Chinmaya mission, he created, this, or Ramakrishna Math, and he was like, going all around. He was like, because he signed himself for a bigger version of the mission statement. And then he basically is like, he was making one move after the other. And the same thing with Shankara, right? Shankara, which is basically is like, once he, after the 16th, when he extended for another 16 months, after he kind of learned all the things, then his next mission statement was to go spread the oneness, the Advaita, to all parts of the India. Then that's when he basically is like, okay, this is my job. I need to go to all the 4 parts of the world and then go do it. And for that, he walked all around the India, all 4 parts, established all the peaks and so on and so forth. It was very hard work, but he was never feeling the thing. He was always anchored in the joy. He was just surrendered to the mission, and he was just, doing one step at a time. In the process, this notion of whether it's success, there is no success or failure. That labels is gone. There is no success or failure. He was making deliberate steps towards that direction, like the prachodaya. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I think, Srinaji, what you're telling is essentially karma yoga, right? We become
Exactly.
karma yogis.
Exactly.
Karma yogis, yeah. So selfless service and goals are set for helping the society without any expectation of reward.
Exactly.
So we are right, yeah, and we are not attached to the result. We will do our best, but we are not expecting any reward, and we are not attached to the outcome also.
Exactly. And then basically it's like, there is a beautiful sloka in the karma yoga sloka, Mai Sarvani Karmani, right? Which is like, in doing that selfless service, offer every action, see me in every one of the action. And that me is nothing but the one. So it's a culmination of all the 4 parts of yoga, the Raja Yoga, the Jnana Yoga, and the Bhakti Yoga, and the Karma Yoga, which is like offer every self-life action as an offer to the divine. And then that also becomes, when everything that you're doing is contemplated, is as an offering to the God, and that also conforms to the Raja Yoga definition, Tatra Pratyaya Ekatanatha Dhyana. Because every action is anchored in that divine as an offering. So that's basically is like, then that's also the definition of a dhyana. So this Mai Sarvani Karmani is actually the way that we're doing. The moment, I agree with you, the moment when we put a vision or mission statement, I want to get to $1 million, I want to get to this and this and this stuff, which then essentially becomes a chatter, then it becomes anxiety and this stuff. Basically it's like, you create Sunilji said it so well. Define a vision mission statement that is anchored in the selfless service of the others. And then you do the core values. And then you just prosecuting. You only focus on the journey, not the destination. On the journey or the destination. And in the process, you will hit all kinds of hardships and the tough thing. But you're always in harmony. And that's what Gandhiji says, right? For all the others, it looks like very inconsistent and whatever, but in deep inside, I'm very, consistent. And there is a nice, he was doing satyagraha, which is actually meditating on truth. And then the core values is, which is like, perhaps all of us can define the core values, or like, we'll be, seeking truth, or we will be pursuing excellence, or we'll be doing, holistic and so on and so forth. And then the next 2 components of the brand identity are visual identity and the voice tone. I think these are more of accentuating things. The visual identity is something that is, a little bit useful. Like, for example, all the swamis, they wear a dress code. What happens is, this is a management study. Subconsciously, what happens is when you see a person with the same costume, like, for example, if you look at Steve Jobs, you will always have the black turtleneck. Or if you see Satya Nadella, or if you see other leaders, they always have a little bit of, the only one costume. And they have a consistent identity. What that consistent identity does is, there is an element of trust that automatically builds. Otherwise, your mind and the senses, they're actually trying to put this new image of you and then trying to attach to it. So what happened? That's one of the reasons why, many of these leaders, they stick to one image, right? One kind of an appearance, so that it subconsciously, it actually automatically allows people to trust this, like Swamiji's or other stuff. And as much as possible, I try to create this dress of white and white, to at least when I come in, there's already some element of connection is already built. Even though, like today, as an example, I wore a blue shirt, which is from my work. And it's almost like, okay, there is some element of mind chatter. It's like, why is Srini here? I mean, this is not the most important thing, but if you are subscribing to a mission in the service of others, anything that adds to realizing that goal, you should probably practice that, creating a visual identity. And the same thing with the voice tone, right? Voice tone is also an important thing. So that also basically what happens is it actually makes that emotional connection much better, and then ultimately it helps your mission of becoming a selfless or the best karma yogi. Do this make sense? The visual identity and the voice tone.
I'm literally struggling here. I understand serving others, but all this, I feel it's a circus. If you want to serve others, things happen, you don't question it. It just happens. We don't need to create anything. All this statement, core values is part of you when you start doing work. What other people identify that, they might say, oh, this is the shirt they're wearing, or this is it just, for a brand, I understand. For a money-making scheme, I understand. I don't know, I'm struggling to put together there. This is when we embody something, nothing matters. Nothing matters. It just happens.
Yeah. But I think, here's the thing. You're thinking from a person who is serving from your standpoint. But for the people on the other side, on the receiving end, they're probably not on the path. They're probably still conditioned mind.
When I'm serving, again, that attachment has to be taken out. Do I care what they think about me?
No.
My intention is to serve and move on. That's it.
No. It was like, as an example, right? If you look at Isha, right? The fact that they have a brand identity, the fact that they have a system thing, they're able to serve at a much bigger scale than, which is like, if it is like, Sadhguru, there is a reason why they actually, create certain element of, it automatically creates an emotional connection, right? There is structure to what they do. There is a visual identity that they do. There is a voice tone that they create. So it actually allows them to scale on their purpose much more effectively. And it takes a process. It takes a long-term investment to actually get there. And the thing is, Savitaji, I think, this is just one framework, right? One framework of how we are actually serving. Like, as an example, if you look at Ramana Maharshi, he never actually worked on any one of these things, right? He just stayed in his own cave, right?
Shirdi Sai Baba, like they didn't bother to create.
Right, true. Yeah, I have a point of view actually on that, right? If I look at, Ramana Maharshi ji and Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, who is the guru of Vivekananda, and then if you contrast it with people who are like Vivekananda or Buddha or Adi Shankara, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, and I'm like, number one, I'm like, so little qualified to even make this statement, but this is just one of the thought. And then, Ramakanji, I would want you to correct me. So one other thing is, they keep the Ramana Maharshi ji, they just stayed there. They never worked on anything. The people who needed, they went to them and then they got their answers. But on the other hand, the Vivekananda and the Adi Shankara, they took the path of action. They basically wanted to go serve on a much bigger canvas. And I believe at some level, their path of action perhaps, created a much bigger movement. And again, they got the seeds from the Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and the Ramana Maharshi and so on and so forth. But then these people went out on a path of action to go serve and perhaps, create a much bigger impact in the society. Like whether it's a Buddha or Vivekananda or Adi Shankara. In fact, I believe Buddha On the day when he had the enlightenment, he simply wanted to stay in silence. And he was like, he simply wanted to stay in silence, and he didn't want to do anything. He didn't want to utter any word, and he was just in the deep ecstasy. Then apparently the angels came to him, and it was like, can you share this experience, or can you share, some of this stuff, which is like, this cannot be realized. Whoever needs to get it, they will actually do it. But then apparently the angels told him, it's like, no. There are a lot of people on the borderline. And people who have that seed, who are trying to do it, but they don't really do it. So that's when he actually took to the path of action. He started speaking, he started going around, and he started doing that. But folks like Raman Maharshi, he didn't want to do that. He just stayed wherever he wanted. And then folks that went to him, they got their answers. So there are two types of...
The well doesn't come to the person who is thirsty. The person who is thirsty should go to the well. If every well starts walking around to every thirsty person, then the thirst, then there is not no value. It's just your desire, as Doctor you said, that the hunger and the desire. We have all gone through the, like psychologists say, the dark night of the soul. And at that point of time, what we feed our soul, we can go and sit in a bar and drink ourselves, and go and look for Bibles, Bhagavad Gita. Our path at that point splits. So I feel we should go to the well, and not the well should not come to you. If it comes to you, it's good. But I think as somebody who's hungry, he won't sit quiet. He will look for that well, and until he's satisfied, he will look. He won't stop.
I think
I can bridge. I think I can bridge where Savita ji is coming from, as well as to where Srini ji is coming from. Right. So let's look at this, because then I did spend my time with. I mean, whenever we talk about Shirdi Baba, let's say, there is a Sage Arati, there is a Madhyana Arati, and the song that is sung is different and all. So there is a pattern. The way when a festival comes, the way it starts is a bit different, and so on. Now let's shift gears to the same thing that happens at Art of Living in Bangalore. The ashram is there, folks, the way they wake up and all. So what Sriniji is finally talking about is not that you start, it is like from the nobodiness, anyway, from the nobodiness, we have to be wearing, though we are not wearing a mask, right? We are clear with mask, but whatever action we do still creates a pattern, right? A flow. So all these 5 do fall very unique for each organization or a person as a Shirdi Baba, which later turns to be a actionable common patterns that we see. And similarly, suddenly we shift gears to some corner, even Sripada Vallabha, Swami. If we go there, the way they start off their day and the arati happens, the prasadam that they feed is totally different, right? So these are nothing but coming from infiniteness, but still having a pattern and tweaking that pattern in a joyful, self-adjusting, flowering way is what Sriniji is kind of right, is indicating towards.
Yeah, Ramakanji actually.
If I start to say, oh, my mission statement has to be like that, agreed, but am I stepping up to do there? There are a lot of things that come up. So Savitaji, perfectly true. Whatever you said is, hey, here I am to break my boundaries. Forget about this vision statement of mission. Today I want to live in joy. But when you said, I want to have balance, I want to live in joy, that is what is your mission statement that is happening right now. Though you are saying, I want to break out of these crazy mission statements and vision statements, it is in a way creating a pattern right now, making you, directing you, like as soon as we heard you, we are very clear, all of us on the call are very clear. Savita ji is directing her life towards expansion consciousness. She is committed towards love, compassion, and peace. right? Though you did not tell us right now on the call, we are able to interpret it, right? So that is I think that's the bridging concept between both of you. So with that, I'll stop here.
Actually, this is, if we actually come back to why some of these things are needed, right? The visual identity, core values, and some other things. One of the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, it was just recollecting, it starts with 2 keys. One is Abhyasa, the other one is Vairagya. And the Abhyasa is Satudirga Kala Nairantara Satkara Sevito Drudabhumihi. So when you have to stick to a pattern over a long period of time, and as a motion of servitude, so you have to have a structure. So that structure, then that abhyasa will establish your mind into a right preparedness. Then from there, you actually create a sense of vairagya. Those 2 are the keys. So the reason why every one of those things, like it as an example, we actually in this, little group, we have a structure and we try to go through that same structure. Right? If I were to be very ad hoc and every day come in, it's like, I want to break all these things. Every yoga class is a different structure. Everything is a different thing. Then it almost like, you're not actually getting into the mind it's very difficult to tame the mind. So that is one of the reasons why these are all nothing but the tools to actually establish a routine, abhyasa, so that your thing becomes Drudabhumi. And that's why there is a, when you wake up, there is a routine, there is a morning, there is a routine. So these are all to let your mind fixated on one fixed routine that is easy to remember, that is easy to program. And then from there, you move on to the next stage, which is the Vairagya Abhyam. And then that's how you actually get it. The thing that I'm also look for is where I'm trying to look for a mission statement, the vision. If you were to frame it as like, I want to be in a joy. If you were to take that I out, I'm here to be the ambassador for joy, or I'm here to build joy around, right? When you frame that into a different sentence, then you look at it perhaps somewhat in a different way. Then it actually moves towards compassion and love. And then, of course, if you look at it, there is so much suffering around us, right? Dukkha, which is like whether it's a COVID or whether it is people who are having financial struggles or unemployment struggles or emotional struggles. Then in your existence of this little seed, and if you are actually the spreading of the joy, then that immediately leads into a path of action with the resources, because the God has given some of us, it's like the divine has invested some of its resources to us. We are the most privileged, and the divine needs to, the unmanifest divine wants to use this costume to express itself, to want us to be Ishangas. So in that Ishanga, we just need to realize, what is that the divine service that we need to do. And then in that case, you start embellishing that more and more. And then, I think everything, kind of starts, following it. I think, everything perhaps falls in place, organically it falls in, you try to create a structure, you try to create, thing, or you read books and so on and so forth. I think, there is one Patanjali's way of saying abhyasa vairagya abhyam, and then there is a kind of a systemic framework of vision, mission statement, core values, visual identity, and wise stone is perhaps the other way of doing it. Right. And Ramakanji, does that make sense? Is this abhyasa and the rituals, do they kind of map?
Yes, absolutely. And like again,
there
is a reason, there is an authentic approach that Savitaji is trying to let us know. That is, all of us here on the call, we are also getting together. Our life purpose is to break beyond whatever is holding me, right? So that I experience this, whether it could be delta joy slowly, it doesn't matter, but ultimately flowering of the ultimate joy when in fact when I was a 2-year-old, when I was a 3-year-old, there is nothing that was binding me, right? So we all had that in ourselves. And Savitaji is just emphasizing, she's not contradicting.
Yeah, I think you got my.
Yeah, she's not contradicting about not having a vision or all these 5 statements, but her purpose, her stuff here is, I would like to move my journey from somebodyness. I would like to move to nobodyness. And then once I move there, then I further move to the everybodyness. Right?
Exactly.
And
the 0 to 1. Yes.
And then again, but in this whole journey, right now, if we are struggling at, hey, first, how can I have the same joy like my own 2-year-old kid that is having? Right. So that is the most core purpose which Savita ji is looking, which is very authentic and true, and the real purpose that we are. And also, we do agree with exactly the way you are explaining us too, as to, hey, now that we got the full joy, now we have a pattern. We know the infinite potential that we have. Now, how do we direct? Because now we can't go on playing around and say, I would like to be in joy. Whatever we do together directs towards, like we did the Mrutyunjaya Mahamantram together right now on the call. And we created not 1 + 1 or 6 individual energies here, but rather, 2 + 2 became 7, and 1 + 1 + never was 3. It is more like 20, and so on. So 6 people together created an effect of almost like 100 people individually working together. Right? So I think both of us, I'm just trying to bridge between.
No, it's all correct. It's actually the bridge. It's actually this one spectrum of truth, right? Just like, it starts from, as you rightfully said, first you have to become from somebody to nothingness. That's where you let go of all the labeling or your identity. In that, you also says like, then you seek the oneness.
Exactly.
Then you become everybody, right?
And by the way, I think again, now supporting Sriniji a bit for Savita ji, for my personal, this was my personal journey. Okay, I somehow got this technique. I was somehow blessed with this joy process, agreed. But I would go hours together not having any purpose, and it would not direct me, right? So after, there were so many years where I was, when I say I again, until Swamiji said around 12 years back or whatever, I'm forgetting the years, whatever, XYZ. He said, oh, you will teach the class. So suddenly, once he said, you will teach the class, all these 5 things that Sriniji said fell in place like in an emergency and urgency ICU mode. Okay. And then I had to write 1 slide, and that became 2nd slide, and that turned into at least about 500 slides within the next 3 months, at least in the 100 days. There was an urgency because, until then I was joyfully having fun with my life, right? But suddenly Swamiji gave me this expression, and, you are already joyful, agreed, but where is this heading? There are some times that though you are thinking that is joy, is slowly getting into its own tamas and all. So both sides of the coin. With that,
I think what happens, absolutely, this is kind of maps back to Samyama, and then I'll quickly introduce these things, and then we'll continue in the subject. The thing is, once, I think my sense is, once we ask the question, who am I, where am I, why am I here? And once we tap into the sense of our purpose or our existence, and that kind of translates into whether you put that in a vision or mission statement, but very bluntly, which is like, why am I here? What's my purpose? And then when that becomes your dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, and that becomes your only pursuit, you're concentrating and you're meditating on that, and then you become that purpose that you sign up for, and you lose your own identity. And that's when you result in samyama. And then whatever the purpose that you sign up for, that becomes a truth. When you are not in that samyama state of the purpose that you have, it will be a scattered brain. And the power of manifestation doesn't actually realize you're always scattering your energy and the thoughts, and you're doing something here, something there, something there, something there. But once we identify the purpose, and then once you make that be the trayam ekatva samyama, and then that you're only focused on that, and then you're meditating on that, and you become immersed with that, And then that's when Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. And that's when it's a sure shot, whatever the purpose that you signed up for. And that's what realizes. And we have seen that with Buddha. We've seen that with Vivekananda. We've seen that with every other, whether it's a Gandhi or every one of them. I think that's what the yoga actually has asserted and authoritatively put in a sutra format, which is like Vishwatomukam Asandigdam Anavadyam Astovam. So I think if you were to, I think it all starts from that knowing who we are and what's our purpose. And I think then I think everything would then fall in place. So there are a couple of things that are there. I'll quickly talk about those things, and then we'll wrap up today's sessions. It all starts with number one being swadhyaya, which is like know who you are and who you are not. In fact, it needs to be more on who you are not. I think because only when we have a correct assessment about who we are, when you are in your own sangat, having that right perception, right? Then you know what type of people that you want to serve and what type of trusted experiences that you want to create with others, right? And then you also need to question why you're doing this, right? You can be authentic. If you're trying to do this money, be authentic about it. But when you are anchored in, like, for example, in the journey that you're in, knowing your why of, what's the mission that you are in there, right? And then also know the as Ramakanji said, understand you need to have calibration of the brand or the perceptions that other people are creating you. And then as much you are authentic to who you are, as opposed to something that you have to artificially project, then it becomes that much more seamless and sincere. And then communicate clearly, and then have a powerful brand promise, which is like, it comes down to consistent delivery of results, consistent delivery of the same experience, trusted experience. And that's how you'll actually succeed. And then there are a couple of other things, and I think a couple of those things, we all need to be a person of substance, right? A person of substance. So our value, the word that we speak, needs to communicate a value. Our thought needs to have a value, right? And eventually we move towards the silence, but we start speaking in sutras, right? Where every word of ours, will be so precious. And then just like the agile, we just keep at it and refine along the way. We don't need to embellish every finer detail. We just keep it as a sketch, start making the deliberate steps, and then march forward. And then the doors start opening. As long as you're authentic to your purpose and your vision and the mission statement, then the opportunities will be open for you from nowhere. And then effort becomes effortless. Prayatna Shaitilya Ananta Samapatiyam. The initial effort that you put in to start creating this brand and start the execution for your purpose, that effort becomes Shaitilya, and that's when all the Samyama Ananta Samapatibhyam is going to happen. Prayatna Shaitilya Ananta Samapatibhyam. So that's for today, and then we will continue this in the follow-on sessions as our time permit. But thank you so much. And Savitaji, in particular, I think I always like your reflections. It allows me to kind of do my self-study even much better. I know your self-study and my self-study, and we're all trying to arrive at the common truth.
I don't know if it's self-study, but I think it's more experiential. That's what I go for. I have done calendars. I have done, today, every day, morning routine, evening routine. Now I've been doing yoga continuously. I hang on to the experience at the end, what I get. And that's what makes me go and stand in the yoga mat. Not, the bigger mission is that I want to become a yoga teacher, but that doesn't pull me to the yoga mat. What pulls me to the yoga mat is the experience I have once I go into Shavasana or whatever it is, after the entire sequence, or do pranayama and meditation. That experience is what I'm looking for every day. And that's what I realized when people have a routine or whatever they do, be it my father, as I said, he gets up at 4 o'clock, practice Hindustani music. It's the experience he feels at the end of the action is what they're holding on to. And that's how organic I want in things. Yes, I will. But if you tell me on, it's like saying you have a 3-hour exam and you have to finish it, that won't pull me to the mat. That won't make me do it on a nirantara or everyday basis. I have done all those putting in a calendar, saying I'm going to do 21 days, I'm going to do 15 days. I've always failed in that. What's keeping the experiential aspect of it is what keeping me going. Like I've told once told my manager, I'm sorry, I have to go and do yoga. I'll come back to you. So because I'm not willing to let go of that. I want that in a day. Like talking to you guys is an experiential aspect, which I learned something new today. I enjoy that. Or I may not like something or what I heard. Doesn't matter. But it's just the experiential side of it is what actually drives me to do things. I don't know if I have a mission statement, vision statement, or I would say, yes, there is a nirantara thing. There is a routine. There is thing. It happened or naturally because I want that.
Can I ask you a question? It's more of a probing question. It's more seeking question. So the thing is, you somehow have connected. You have an experiential reality of the joy of yoga or the moment after you do your routine or the stuff, right? And then now it becomes your own truth, right? Now you have a mission statement, something, because you want to become a yoga teacher. I assume that, because you would want many people to get to your state, as an example, right? Now, for others to get to your state, right? If you start looking from their standpoint, they would have to go through the initial, whatever the period of, the struggles, how to get into there, to finally experience the joy. I don't think it happens right at the first moment. And like, for example, you yourself were probably trying this yoga for so many years.
20 years.
Exactly. And then you got to a lot of experiences, explorations, and so on and so forth, to now that sadhana over the years have now gotten to a point where you actually are experiencing the joy of that, right? So when you subscribe to this notion of yoga teacher, if you ask, like, why do you want to become a yoga teacher? I assume that, why do you want to become a yoga teacher? I believe, you probably would want many people around you to experience the same joy like you do.
I want them to experience, but I think it's a self. It has to come from them, because I have also struggled. I want to go to yoga class. I have gone to n number of yoga classes and I've gone to n number of activities, but it's the unless and until that experience what I held on to, I can't teach them that. They have to. It's like, as Buddha said, he realized it, but he can't teach. He can't go to the final chapter immediately. You know what I mean? I don't know how to say it.
Yeah. Actually, he cannot go there. I think what people is, most people only enter the stage of Vishada Yoga. It's not like they don't even know the playbook of what to look for. They only, in all the people around us, we are always entering into this ephemeral states of happiness, and then we get into the periods of Vishada Yoga. And then people are all trying different things, right? Some people take alcohol, some people take smoking, some people take this stuff, right? Thinking that might be an answer. So with us, what happens is, because there is lack of awareness, it's only because there is a Krishna there and there is a right teacher there who are actually guiding them to, like, dude, please, don't become like an Arjun Reddy. There is a better path here. So our role essentially becomes that. I think the only thing is, there are many people who are entering that Vishada Yoga in different stages of life. And then they're always thinking that, maybe I should eat a nice, full pizza or something else, so that I get into eternal joy. And then they fail. The circus continues. And that's when your elevation of yourself to become that yoga teacher, then you could help the people around us, people who are struggling, to give them a path that could potentially get them to a much everlasting thing.
So Srini and Savita, that's my struggle these days. I'm trying to get hang on yoga, but for one reason or another, it's not happening. And I really need to have a self-talk and prepare myself to just kind of go at it.
I think that's one of the key things, right? The first key that we need to do, I think you should not let your experiential reality come in. Nothing comes easy. Like, whether you want to master piano, music, it's not because when you're practicing soar, very few people actually like the practice of this. And I remember my older one, when she was trying to learn piano, first it came easily. And then at level 4, she was stuck for about a year. And it was such a painful thing. At that time, the only thing that you would have to do is just stuck to abhyasa. I mean, you don't learn math just because you like math initially. I mean, unless you become like a Ramanujam, where you're so blessed and gifted soul, where it comes naturally to you. So I think the one thing is the discipline, Anushasana. That's what the first Yoga Sutra, right? Atha Yoga Anushasana. Just like how you brush your teeth. There is nothing like all the judgment about is it going to result in a good experience, a bad experience, or anything. You just have to put a timer and the schedule, get onto the mat at 4:30, put a time. And that's the reason every ashram has a reason why they have the discipline is because they program that habit into you. And that is essentially the sutra, right? Atha Yoga Anushasanam, which is like, make that as a self-discipline. And then probably when in the beginning, even when somebody asks you to brush, you're like, what the hell, why do I need to do? Or shower, we resisted. But, then it becomes, I think you literally have to make it as a yoga, as an Anushasanam. That's the first, sutra, Patanjali said, just like pick a time and then do it. I think once you get onto the mat, I think after 15 minutes and then you do the sun salutations, then you feel that experience of joy, Angalagavam, and then your breath becomes softer, then you start experiencing joy. And then you experience a thing, then it becomes, part of a very natural to you. Then nobody needs to come and tell you because, you just, come and do that. So I think, there is no other trick other than
two more tips to that, Alpaji. So I think one is picking a partner for it. I mean, whether it is an online partner or friend to commit along with you, who is in tune with your, whatever the resonance.
Accountability buddy.
Yeah. So one is accountability buddy. One is the inspirational buddy. The other is a accountability stuff. That is, I know that you are into your family's WhatsApp groups or whatever you are connected with, right? Just let them know that I am doing this and I'm planning to do this coming 4 days, or the minimal thing I would say. I will not take any number here, but if you think 3 days is huge for me, then post that and look at the fun, because that is where, like I showed the components the other day, right? All those components come into play: the subconscious, superconscious, all those magic, you, me, the definitions, all the Vedanta will come out to the mat right away. You will easily know.
All right, I'm starting.
Alpha, after so many years of failure, one thing I have learned is accountability is good. Absolutely, it's perfectly fine. But like today, Priya didn't show up. She had work, and so she said, I'm not going to come to the do yoga. Me and we both do together. But I went still ahead and went and did it. This wouldn't have been me before. So what is the self-disappointment is the worst thing. Nobody will tell you anything. Oh, Alpa, you didn't do it today. Savita, when we don't do it one day, it's like, oh, I'm such a bad person. That self-talk you need to change first of all. The secondly is, even if it's say you couldn't do it today, by end of the day, just do 1 or 2 asanas or whatever it is, even in that given time, just do one asana, just to tell your subconscious brain that I did act on it. Only slowly. It's not like you're canceling the whole day out. You still did something towards that. So that is what, and eventually as the experience takes over, and you will, as I said, I hung up on my manager and said, I'm sorry, I'm going to come back to you. Nothing else matters. But that self-talk and constantly the failure makes us say, oh, I already lost one day. What the heck? It doesn't matter, 2 more days. That needs to change. It's like, no matter what I don't know, I can't stick to it. That's the words I used to say. As Joe Dispenza says, like, the power of thought and everything we take, it matters. It matters.
Yeah.
What will you do is you will clear everything else, even if it's an important, obviously it's not when somebody is dying, definitely, but anything will stop. And universe also will help you in some way or the other way, saying happens. So this is
I think
my
that's, yeah. I think that very profound what Savita ji said. It also goes back to the dharana, right? When your mind is actually going into other ways and the thoughts, you don't become judgmental, particularly the negative thing. You simply bring it back to what you need to do, right? If you miss a day, it simply is like, okay, you come back to your routine the next day. You come back to your routine the next day. So you just make it as a dharana and abhyasa.
Okay.
Right? The alambanas that are going to help you is in the initial days, you just have to, like what Ramakanji said, see if you can get an accountability partner or inspiring partner. That's number one. And fix to a time, right? So you're literally, this mind will always want to give you some excuse or the other for the practice, right? And every time you want to get into the mat, it actually tells you so many things, right? Just like, maybe yesterday is not there, or maybe I'll start doing tomorrow, maybe it's there, today I have so many other things that are there, and this is stuff, because that's mind's way of tricking, right? It's a monkey. It's not only with that, it's not only with the yoga practice. If you want to, and that's what we say, right? If you want to sit in the meditation, the mind immediately puts all the things like, see, your body is not good, your thumb is not there, all the headache, only shows up at that time, or your kids' duties come in the thing, or, all these things, come in front of you, right? So what you need to do is, you just need to be non-judgmental about it. Just play that this is the mind's way of, this is the drunken monkey is trying to fool you. And you just need to like, sorry, dude, I just need to go do my practice. And then the mind still puts up an even bigger fight, actually, right? It's basically like, are you really serious? It's cold outside. It is like, today it's raining. It's only 11 degrees today. So it's like, but it's like, you just laugh at it and you still go and do your thing.
Or
and the
why
more
do you remember 10 other the different work that I need to do but yoga? So like my mind will be wandering and preoccupied with other things.
exactly, it actually puts a big
keep
fight.
happening until you hang on to the experiential part of it, and that takes time, and that only changes when you stop seeing yourself as a failure. The minute one day you don't do, your mind will say, look at what a failure you are. You didn't even do today. You were on Instagram for 1 hour, you were on other things for 2 hours, but you didn't do. That conversation has to change until you're saying, hey, it's okay. It's like, we're kids or small kids don't succeed in one, say it's okay, you can do it tomorrow. That's the same words we need to tell ourselves.
I think, I think that's one way of looking at it. One is, don't have a negative self-talk about it. But when you are in that dharana mode, concentration mode, and stick to the abhyasa, the universe creates times for you. It actually makes things happen for you. I mean, I've seen this happen to me so many times.
Very true.
Right? It's like unbelievable. There were times where I would be so busy in the meetings, but the thing is, it becomes so very nature of you. And if I didn't get in my practice, then the day doesn't look right for me. So it is like, but I still go do it. And then suddenly there will be some meeting, some gets canceled like 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And then I just go to my break room or sometimes in my own office, and I'll be doing, my own 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Or if I don't have this space, and I would just be doing some meditation or some of the stuff, right? So when you are so steadfast, it's that prosperity mindset, right? The universe colludes against everything to do the right thing. So for that, the intention, the initial thing is you need to do that, right? You need to commit to doing that practice, stick to a schedule, and then don't even look at it. I mean, that is one of the reasons, right? The Yoga Sutras are so profound, because they studied all these things, and they basically said, like, you just need to actually go do this, right? First effort starts from you, prayatna. And then we also said systematically, what are the benefits that you're going to do? The conflicts that you have in your body that is creating as an obstacle, then they will start reducing. So then it becomes part of your very nature, right? Tato dvandva anabhigataha, when you start doing more practices. And then the tamas that is there, when you start doing more, more pranayama, tatakshiyate prakashavaranam, the tamas also starts, reducing. And the more you're doing all these other yama, niyama, and the types of this stuff, you're actually literally creating you're shaping up the universe around you.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm
Right?
going to start from today. Yes.
And I think, one of the things that we could probably do is in the 10 Foundation, if you all have Apple Watches, maybe every day everybody can post the 3 circles.
Okay.
And then that way we can all track the accountability stuff. I think that's I think that's one of the benefits that I see with the Activity Watch. In fact, I was speaking at a healthcare conference in Dallas. There's one guy came to me and he basically said, Srini, this watch literally made a transformation in me. And apparently his wife gifted him with a watch about on their 15th anniversary or something like that. And he was like 230 pounds. And all he basically said, all she asked him to do was, hey, can you close these rings every day? The walking, the standing, and then the exercise thing, or the 3 rings. And which he did not question. He just did that every day. And then within about a year and a half, he lost about 100 pounds, and he's like, having the best experience of his life. I think there is no substitute for Anushasanam, and then Abhyasa, and then we can actually use all the other, whatever works for you. And we just need to commit to it. Yep.
And just with the closure, just I'll close a few more seconds. That's all. So Alpaji, one quick thing I wanted to share was look at the fun of these enlightened masters. That's when I realized why they are called enlightened. About 12 years back, when Swamiji told me, okay, start doing the classes. Then I was about to question him something, and then even before I questioned, he said, I know that you are doubting whether there'll be people there or not in the class. What you do is you put my picture in the class. If somebody comes, teach to them. If nobody comes, teach to my picture.
Wow.
You know what? The coming so many weeks, I felt like, I don't know what to say, right? You have this numbness that happens in your entire being. I was so shocked. I said, no wonder they are called enlightened masters. I would never think that way, right? If somebody comes, if somebody comes, teach. If nobody comes, teach to my picture. What does this mean? So from that day, Alpaji, till today, it's like for me, it just means that, hey, you just have to go. That's all. Rain or shine, you are there. That's all. It doesn't matter. So that changed my life. And I was so surprised. Like Sriniji explained, right? Once you stick to the right vision and the purpose, then rest of the universe, like Savitaji has been explaining, the entire energies of the universe, they support it. And this I could see both sides in me. I am such a lazy guy, believe me or not. When I say Ramakant as a person, I'm not talking about that genius who writes these slides and talks to these people and all. But as a person on one side, I'm such a laid back, a crazy, lazy kind of soul. But this suddenly brought up the sharpness, and that guru guy who is so genius, ultimately razor sharp. And the entire ecosystem supported it, right? So anyway, so that's one thing I want to talk about. And then Savitaji, about your concept, when you were sharing throughout this session, one quick insights that suddenly flashed to me is,
yes,
you are in yoga, by the way. Okay, first one. Okay, I don't know what yoga sutras mean. I don't know what yoga also means, but I know one thing is, you are connected to the fountain within yourself, right? That question mark that we talked about. That is one thing I could realize. Second is, there is a tremendous force in your life. You can call it guru, you can call it God, you can call it nature. But very clearly, it clearly shows the symptoms clearly show that there's a tremendous guru godness or the so-called nature consciousness that is working through you. Okay, so that is the second point I wanted to bring. Just want to let you know. And the third thing I wanted to address, Sriniji, was when he was talking about the people when they are in this situation of the happy hour and all, they try to go into their Vishada yoga. By the way, they don't go into Vishada yoga. They go into Vishada, right? If they went to Vishada yoga is, right? Because if somebody goes to, why is the first chapter, I see, when I was memorizing Bhagavad Gita, I was so surprised knowing Bhagavan doesn't even talk a shloka in this first chapter. This is about people standing in the army. Who the hell even put this chapter in these 18 chapters? It's a waste of 47 shlokas that I memorized is a stupid waste, is what I thought. And when I was listening to a little bit, and then, of course, for Telugu people here, Gita Makarandam is from Vidyananda Prakashananda Swamiji. And he says, right, when the reason why this became is the pinnacle of pain. See, all of us here, our problem also is we don't reach pinnacles. Whether it is Vishada to its extreme, total extreme, to its fullness, that there is no more left over. Like even Sunilji was explaining that shloka, right? So it is Gandivam samsrate hasta tvakchaiva paridahyate. So the tvak, the skin is burning, right? And Gandivam sramsate, the Gandivam is slipping from my hands. Hastat, hastam mein se, it is slipping. So tvakchaiva paridahyate, nachashaknom yavasthatum brahmativa cha me manas is brahmativa. It is just like shivering and shaking. Right? So that kind of thing doesn't happen to us. The problem with us is whatever we hit, even if we hit eating the biryani to the fullest, taking that alcohol shot with awareness, right? Even touching our spouse or our kids with awareness. When we do that with fullness, it comes with an amazing package altogether, right? When we eat this grape or this biryani with awareness, allowing each cell of our body to resonate with that joy. Similarly, even when we cry, it is all like half-hazard cry. We don't even that dukkha will not even take over, right? But it was not, because Manava he was the Uttama among the Manavas. That is why he was a Manavottama. And similarly, among the Purushas, he is the Uttama. So Krishna was the Purushottama, and Arjuna was the Manavottama. And I know they are Naranarayana Maharshis themselves. So I agree there's a big difference between them. But going back to Sriniji, so basically, all of our friends or even us, we get into Vishadas, we don't get into Vishada yogas. If we did get into that, I think we have all solutions possible. With that, back to you all. Thank you.
It's so beautiful that the way you put it. We only get into Vishada. We never actually do the Ekatattva Abhyasa. Exactly. Once actually, if you get the Vishada yoga, then I think then the answer is there automatically. When you get to the oneness with that experience of the sorrow, where you're experiencing every aspect of your sensation and your thoughts, and when you get into that oneness, Ekatattva Abhyasa.
See, look at us, right? When we say, oh, I will not do this anymore. We just वो नाक से आ रहा है या मुंह से आ रहा है या गले से आ रहा है या उदरम से आ रहा है, एक दो घंटा रहेगा या नहीं रहेगा खुदा जाने, but when our dude did that in that place, he was like totally into it, right? So obviously great things happen. With that, Jai Guru.
I think that's that thing is like in life experience. I think that's why Patanjali, when he revealed the 8 or 9 strategies to overcome obstacles, the first thing that he basically said is Ekatattva Abhyasaha, which is like most of the time we only operate at a periphery, whether it is a sorrow or a pleasure or anything, any emotion in our life. But when you actually become one with that, then then you're actually on the path. Whatever the experience that you are in, even alcohol consumption or even the sorrow, then you have to go deeper into it, the layers and layers and layers. And that's when everything happens. That's such a profound, the way you put it. I was like just trying to map it to the Bhagavad Gita, but I did not actually separate the Vishada and Vishada Yoga. That's beautiful. Thank you, Ramakanji. So namaste. So everybody, let's close our eyes.
Yeah. Thank you, Ramakanji, and thank you, Sriniji, for this wonderful opportunity you have created. I am very grateful for that.
Me too. Thank you.
Yeah. See, now I'm doing infographics and slideshow.
Actually, sorry. I think this one.
My daughter.
that number two is Ramakanji.
Satsanga makes a difference. Satsanga makes a difference.
Yep. And Ramakanji, I completely agree with your number two, that there is a force that is expressing through Savitaji, and we get to see that on this Saturday. Some infographics are coming, and this Saturday.
Ramakanji, please come and make fun of my infographics. My slideshows. Have fun.
So Bagal mein, I'm your assistant that day, so we will make sure we will add more colors and flavors to your painting. So
sure. Take inspiration from me, Savitaji. Like, see, I'm able to even open my mouth in front of Ramakanji, right? Who is my guru. But then I still go and do surrender to the thing. So just do the same.
You're doing wonderful. Don't worry. You're doing wonderful.
Exactly. So and you say that to yourself. You're doing wonderful.
Yeah. See, I'm signing up myself. I said, no, I have to bring the slideshow for this one.
Exactly.
I'm signing up myself for everything. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's close our eyes. Take a deep breath. Let's chant Om 3 times. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. We wish everybody to be happy. Wish everybody to be free of sorrow and illness. Wish everybody to see only auspicious things, and let there be peace everywhere. It's wonderful thoughts. Above form. Generate the love and fire of knowledge. Pop our eyes. To transmit this knowledge to give us the right divine vision. And slowly and gently, with a bright smile, open our eyes. Thank you all for this nice, wonderful satsang. And we'll see you all again on a Saturday. Ramakanji and Dr. Sunil and Savitaji and Alpam. And we'll talk again. Namaste.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.